Number one, I want these videos to entertain. My youngest kid watches them before I upload, and if he doesn't laugh at least twice, I will make it funnier. But a message is nice as well. Be above average. You don't need to be best, just be better than most. Or don't eat too many donuts. A point behind the jokes. Today's message is very simple. If you have a race coming up with multiple sprints within it that you intend to absolutely crush, do not spend hours selecting your Top Gun clips to go in the video until you're sure it has gone to plan, because if it doesn't, you're going to have clips you have no use for, you'll have to shoehorn them in, and it will all look very dumb. Did the race go to plan? Well, it was supposed to be the most exciting thing that was happening this week. The fact that this arriving was actually the most exciting thing that happened this week should tell you all you need to know. I've got to use them somewhere. This thing is going on the wall inside the house so that people know when I'm filming to shut up, because sometimes I don't think they realise quite how serious this all is.
That's funny.
So last night was the Zwift Racing League Season 2 Race 7 Category C Libby Hill After Party in Richmond. This course was absolutely perfect for me. 5 laps around the short flat section with a sprint within it, and then off to finish a few kilometres away at the top of a short climb. 5 laps means 5 sprints. 5.
This is what I call a target-rich environment.
So here was the plan. I had researched this course thoroughly and researched the sprint times as well. It looks like a very fast A would be going sub 12 seconds. A very fast B would be going in the 12s. A very fast C would be low 13s to mid 13s, and then the Ds would be in the 14s. I estimate that with a draft or a power up, I'm going to be equivalent to a roughly top 10 B class sprinter, which would put me on track for something like a 12.9, under 13 seconds, and likely faster than any other Category C rider. So plan A was to take it easy and crush the sprints and try and get at the very least the top 3 fastest overall sprint times. In fact, by taking it easy between each sprint, it might have even been possible to try and go for the 4th and 5th fastest sprint as well, given that everybody else will be going very hard throughout the entire race. Now, there had been some suggestion during the week from both people that I race against and some YouTube comments as well that maybe I should just forego the sprints and just race the race in a more traditional way and try and get a good overall finish time. I'm never going to win it, but maybe top 10. The idea being that that would be a more proper way of approaching it, a more appropriate way, and instead of just showboating on the sprints, it would be more rewarding than just mucking about. Absolutely not. It is way cooler to just muck about. So last night I'm warming up in advance of the race and the bike is struggling. I cannot lay down big wattage without the crank clunking. You can hear it here in the background making a horrendous noise. It literally feels like the crank is slipping. If it were a real bike, I would assume that the rear cassette teeth were worn down and the chain was spinning on the cassette. In desperation, I took it off the rocker plates while it's over there, made no difference. I tightened up the crank bolts, that made no difference either. It became obvious there was no way I could go flat out on this thing 5 times in a row, and I needed to get at least the top 3 sprints to get enough points to make that approach worthwhile. It just wasn't going to happen. And so plan B, race properly. And here we are at the start of the race. Off I go. And initially I'm feeling okay. It feels quite sustainable. At this point I'm trying to hold on to the front group, stay in the draft. I'm just going to see how it pans out. And I'm sort of coming to terms with the idea that there's going to be no exciting sprinting, but maybe there is something to be had from just riding it in a normal way. And then we come up to the first sprint section. Now on this course, you go around a hairpin and then the sprint is almost straight in front of you. What you need to be doing is to come out of that hairpin flying. So you hit the start of the sprint already going as quick as possible. It's only a short sprint in the first place. And as we go towards the hairpin, I notice that I'm in 45th place, but the blob is really, really tight. There's only a few seconds between me and the front of that group. And I've got the draft power up. And it occurs to me that I could use that power up to move fast through the blob round the hairpin, slingshot out of it without needing to use too many watts and have the bike fall apart, and actually go into the sprint with the possibility of crossing the line with some of the first few riders. Because as well as points for the fastest sprint, you also get points for where you come first across the line, irrespective of your actual time through the section. So I drop the power up, and with fairly moderate wattage for me, I'm able to go through the group, and I find myself here, 10 meters from the start of the sprint, the bike apparently holding itself together, and two guys in front of me.
I feel the need.
You know the rest. I go for it. And 5 seconds in, less than halfway down the sprint, and I have passed them relatively straightforward. It means I'm now a good half second up on their time. I'm almost certainly going to get the fastest sprint. That's sorted. All I got to do now is hold on, get first across the line as well. Ah, come on! Fourth across the line.
There are no points for second place.
Well, there are. There's also points for fourth, but they are not the points I want. Let's jump back 10 seconds here. I think the reason my wattage here, as I'm leading the sprint, and I'm no expert, is at 0, is because I'm riding the bike with one leg. My cleat had snapped off. In fact, not the cleat actually. I have cleat adapters that hold the cleat further down my midfoot, and the little bolt that holds that on the shoe has literally just sheared itself straight off the bottom of my foot. As a result, at exactly the moment that I should have been pulling away from these guys, putting distance between us, instead it's as though, I don't know how to describe it, it's as though I hit the brakes and they fly right by. So I duct taped my foot on the pedal and came up with plan C. And there really aren't many options at this point. I'm in 66th place now. That gets me 7 race points if I finish there. But whether I improve by a couple of positions or drop by a couple of positions will only make a couple of points difference overall. If I want more points than that, I need to do something different. My only chance really is to see if my foot can stay on the pedal, just use one leg predominantly, and see if I can get some sprint points. And the answer is no, I can't. It turns out you do need to use both your legs. I have a go at the sprints, but there's nobody to draft off of. I can only push down on my left foot. I can't pull up, I can't push over the top. The foot's flapping about on the pedal. My times are rubbish through here. They're in the 14s, even 15s on some of them, grim. So after having a stab at it anyway, I ride to the finish and the climb, which also, like the sprint, is timed with points. Now I knew a fast time up this hill was about a 1:30, and that needs about 5 watts per kilogram, so around 500 watts for me to get up it at that speed. The problem is, the first part of the climb is pretty quick for a climb. It's not that steep. You're doing over 30 kilometers per hour. So it would be a real benefit to go into that with others to get a draft. To attack this climb solo at 100 kilograms, I mean, it's an idea, but I don't know if you'd call it sensible. I don't know what you'd call it.
Gutsiest move I ever saw.
I mean, ultimately, you feel free to describe it however you like. I just try and keep my wattage around 550, 650 and just see how long I can hold on for. And it is a very long 1.5 minutes. It gets really steep towards the end. In fact, it gets really steep towards the end. I can't pedal the bloody thing properly. My foot is slipping around on it. It's rubbish. I end up actually 4th fastest up it overall, but it should have been much better. And I'm 74th overall in the entire race. So scores on the doors, I got 5 points for coming in 74th place, which actually is only 2 points less than had I stayed in 66th. So not a huge disaster there, relatively speaking. I then got 7 points for being 4th across the line on that first sprint with one leg. I got 0 0 fastest sprint points, because although my first sprint ended up being 7th fastest on that lap, I then got I think a 5th fastest on another lap. Neither of those 2 times were fast enough to end up being in the top 10 sprints overall, which is crazy annoying because the fastest couple of times out of the whole race were the 2 guys that beat me on that first lap. They do 13.2s. No one else the entire race got close to 13. Most of the times were mid-13s, if not 14s. I should have been doing 12s. Very annoying. And then 7 points for 4th fastest up the hill. 19 points overall, 2nd in my team. So where does that leave me? Well, for a start, it leaves me with a ton of clips that I have no use for.
Maverick Supersonic. We're going ballistic, man! Do some of that pilot shit.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
He got you, didn't he?
And it leaves me almost done with the current season. There is only 1 race left. Next week, a team time trial event, so not particularly exciting. But the sun is out. The government have almost decided that opening up gyms might be a sensible idea before Christmas. And in 6 weeks' time, I've got a 50-kilometre ultra marathon to run. So there is plenty of other stuff coming up. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, because I need to get to 10,000 subs before Easter in order to win a bet with my children. And I'm 99% sure I'm going to do that.
That's really funny.
Seriously, subscribe or it is going to cost me a fortune.